Yeah,
This meeting is being recorded.
got it. Okay. When I was 20 years old, I had gone to DC Teachers College because I had been accepted there, and I had a choice between DC Teachers College and Howard University. And because Aunt Gwen and Uncle Sam, Aunt Gwen's mother worked at DC Teachers College, I decided I'd go there instead of going to Howard. And at 20 years old, and that's when I met your mother, really. In 1961, I met her standing in line to register for classes at DC Teachers. And she walked up and asked if she could get in front of me in the line. And I looked at her and I said, oh, hell yeah, you can get in front of me, right? So that's what I was doing when I was 20. And then I realized that a lot went on then, because in that year, her mother passed. And when I met your mother, she was engaged to be married. But the guy she was engaged to went into the service. And when her mother died, he wasn't there to be with her. And even though she and I were just friends at that point, I was there to help her go through all of the things that she had to go through with her mother. And because I was happened to be there at the time, we grew closer and closer together. So that was 61, 62, we got married in 63. When I married your mother, I was 21. I had turned 21 December 17, 1962. And when I went down to get my license to marry, the lady, we went through that. The lady looked at me and said, why you want to get married? You so young. And I told her, I said, I'm ready. I found the person I want to be with. And we went on and got married. So at 20 years old, I was already destined to be married to your mother. I wasn't no playboy. I'd never been a playboy. And I thought I was really, I don't know how to explain it, but your mother could have had anybody that she wanted at Spangone High School, even at DC Teachers College. Your mother she was like top of the line. She was in the top 5. She was in the top 5 in terms of her physical self. And mentally, she was smart. So here's somebody that's very attractive and she could have had anybody she wanted. And she chose to hang out with me. So you know what that made me feel like, right? That made me feel like she wanted me and she got the pick of the litter. You had to pick of the litter and you chose me. So that made me feel really special, right? And as things went on, there were things that I began to question. Things that I said, I never looked at myself as someone that the queen would want. Why in the world she want me? What do I have? Because I didn't have anything.
Right.
And she didn't have anything really. But she dated guys, like one of the guys she dated went to the Naval Academy. She dated Dave Bing, who became a basketball star.
Yeah.
I mean, she had options. She dated people who eventually became something, but she chose me. And I had to feel like, why me? What did I have?
Why not you?
And then I realized that one of the things that she saw in me, I think, my personal feeling, wasn't me. What she saw was Sam and Gwen
Okay.
and their lifestyle. Because you have to remember now, even though Dave Bing became a basketball star, at the time he wasn't. The guy at the Naval Academy, at the time, he wasn't. At that time, she looked at me like this is a good choice because his aunt and uncle are professionals. You know, you remember Sam, Uncle Sam was doing research at Howard University. He was working on enzymes and rats and proteins and all that stuff, but he was closely affiliated with the FDA, which meant a lot of his friends were people who came to the house. Julius Hobson at the time was one of the leading what do you say? One of the leading people in the movement, the Black movement.
Okay.
For Black, right? And I used to babysit for him. So when I was living with them, Teresa and I were exposed to all of these people who were into Black politics and research, and just people who were really dealing with the issues that Blacks were being confronted with at the time. And I think she looked at me as being a part of that movement, right?
Right.
And I think when she looked at me, she saw stability. You know, I mean, we'll go through a whole session of her family background and why, when she met me, she saw something different. In fact, when her mother died, her father had just gotten out of jail.
Okay.
Yeah, Percy, her father was in and out of jail, and a couple of his brothers, like the twins, they were in and out of jail because that was a time when drugs they weren't selling drugs, they were using drugs. And back then, if you were using drugs, they would lock you up. Not because you were selling drugs, but because you were using them, because using drugs wasn't acceptable either, right? So her father was in and out of jail. And her mother used to sell bootleg liquor, right? So, you know, bootleg liquor was like, if you don't have any liquor come Saturday and Sunday, then you go to the bootlegger and buy something. And her mother kept liquor for the weekend people who didn't have a lot of money and stuff like that. So it was a complicated thing, but it was real. It was just a real world that she was living in. And then when I came in with that background of Sam and Gwen, college educated, college, all of this stuff, and the friends that they invited over and the exposure that I was getting, and then she began to get that exposure. I think she chose that lifestyle and me with it. Because I began to think that I was her entrance into that world, right? And that seemed to work for her, and it worked for me, right? And then I think we sort of grew together. It was a love that wasn't there. It was a convenience and an introduction to another lifestyle. But because we never talked about it, we never ever talked about it. But I always felt like she came to me, not for me, but she came to me for the lifestyle that I represented and the people that she was being exposed to, who was so much different from the alcohol drinking and drugging people that her father, that side of the family, right? Her mother's side of the family.
But she didn't know she was getting into your family, which does a whole lot of drinking and drugging too, huh?
Huh? Right. Well, no, because that came later. All that came later.
Okay.
Because Sam and Gwen weren't about all of that. And all of their friends, they were not about all of that. All of that came later.
Okay.
But on her mother's side, you talking people, just good church-going people. Ophelia, Loretta, Aunt Gladys, and all of their kids, they were just, it was almost like they were just country bumpkins.
Right.
You know, really, really nice, good people, but not about all of the other things in life that education would allow you to enjoy.
Right.
And she was about trying to make sure that we get into a lifestyle where we could enjoy the benefit of education. And that was one of that. It was no way I could drop out of school because I had to get educated so I could provide the life that was important to her and to me. So dropping out of college, see, I went to DC Teachers College from 1961 to 1969. I spent 7 or 8 years getting a bachelor's degree. I'm not talking about a master's or a doctorate. I spent all that time getting a bachelor's degree. But then I was married, I had children, I had a full-time job, and I had to juggle all of that so that I could get that degree, because that was so important to her and to me, because she never finished. She got pregnant and she got the job with the telephone company, so she could not finish and get her degree. So it was important that I got mine so that we could continue to go down the road that we had decided we were going to go down. And as it turns out, I'm the one with the degree. She worked for the telephone company, started out as a long distance operator, and eventually got into management. And she was doing better than me with my degree. Yeah, I'm the one with the degree, right? And she's the one making all the money. right? She was making a lot more money than I was making with all my degrees and all that stuff, right? And then, it went on from there, but we grew into each other. And that's how we managed to stay in there for 51 years of marriage.
So
I
the
mean, your
question,
mother and I were married for 51 years.
okay, so the
And
question,
we were together for 53 years.
all right, so the question was, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? Do the same thing, do something different?
Pay attention to what's going on in your life. Pay attention to what's going on in your life and make sure that the decisions that you make will be the decisions that you're going to be able to live with for the rest of your life.
Now, do you feel like you did that at your 20-year-old self? Do you think you followed that advice without even being asked or told?
I think I just followed the path. I just followed where life was taking me. I don't think I consciously made a decision. This is what I'm going to do. I did and I didn't. I did what I had to do without thinking about where it was taking me. I was married. I had kids. I had to go to work. That's what I had to do. And I was not going to not do that. I was going to take care of my responsibilities. I was going to make sure that I did what I was supposed to do. I don't know if I ever sat down and said to myself, what track are you on? Why are you on that track? And where is it leading you? Where are you in life? I don't know if I ever sat down and said to myself, where are you in life? What are you going to do and stuff like that? It was automatic. You go to school, you go to work, and you be a family man without really thinking about it, right? I didn't really think about it. I just did it. And it just turned out wonderful. Everything just turned out great. I'm glad you asked that question because I'm gonna have to think about that. In fact, at that age, when I was 20 years old, well, you have to remember that when I was 20 years old, when I came out of high school, I was 19 years old because I had repeated 2 grades. I had to repeat the 9th grade and I repeated the 10th grade because I wasn't interested in school. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, doing all the wrong things. And when I turned 16, well, I can go back a little bit. When I was in the 9th grade at Brown Junior High School in DC, I failed the ninth grade. I took my father a report card that had all F's, because I wasn't interested in school. I was going to do what I wanted to do, and I just failed. So I had to repeat the 9th grade at Woodson Junior High School. And when I got to Woodson Junior High School, things turned around a little bit. I got a little more interested, and I graduated 9th grade and went to Spingarn High School. And when I got to Spingarn High School, wrong crowd, wrong thoughts again. And when I turned 16, I dropped out of Spingarn. So here I am, a 16-year-old dropout, hanging out in the streets, with a father who didn't know how to redirect that energy. He didn't know what to do. And he let me just drop out. He said, well, you drop out, you know. You're on your own. You drop out. You do whatever you're going to do. That was his attitude, right? And of course, I said, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll do what I want to do. And then I left him and went to live with Aunt Earlene and Uncle Dimps and Dimples and Lord and Alfred over there, right? So that's another whole new thing, but
Well, Mr. Warren, you already touched on some of that before.
yeah, and that's how I ended up with Uncle Sam and Aunt Gwen.
Okay.
And they turned everything around where I saw something different.
Aaron, you got anything you want to add or ask or chime in or comment?
His mic is off.
Unmute. You have to unmute.
Yeah, no, I'm just happy listening at the moment. If I think of something, I'll shout, but no, happy listening.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see a lot of me in you because you're your own person. You're doing life the way you see the way it will work for you. And I think at one point I was just like that. I'm doing life the way I see it. I'm not being directed at that point. I'm just out there. I'm just living. I'm not goal directed. And then something happened to change my life and the way I was thinking. And I'm glad it happened because I could very well have gone to jail. The people I was hanging with and the things that I was doing at the time could have landed me in jail. But if I had not gone to live with my aunt and uncle, who presented a different way of looking at life, there's no telling what. One thing is for sure, Nicole and Andre would not have been born. That's one thing. They would not have been born if I had kept living the life that I was living.
If it hadn't been for that change, yeah.
If it hadn't been for that change, there would be no Andre and no Nicole.
So I have a question on the sidebar.
Okay.
You were talking about your lifestyle and all the people who've gone to jail. Have you ever been incarcerated? I mean, have you ever been arrested or spent a night in juvie or?
Oh, no, nothing like that. Just one time, Uncle Austin and I, we got held up by the police when I was staying with them during the summer up at my grandmother's up on Morton Street off Georgia Avenue. And the police came and rounded us up. Well, there 2 times. The one with Austin, they accused us of setting fire to this garage or barn or something like that, right? And of course, we knew nothing about that. We had nothing, but they needed to get somebody, so they came and got the black kids. And they lined us up, you know, and took us, and we had to stay in jail for maybe 2 or 3 hours. And then they let us go and we went on. They didn't even bring in parents or anything. They just say, okay, you all can go. That was one time. Another time, I was with the guys, and this is when I was staying with Sam and Gwen. And we were down at Taft Playground playing basketball. And here come all of these police. And they took everybody on the basketball court over to number 12 precinct over there on Rhode Island Avenue and put us in a lineup. And they they said somebody in this lineup had assaulted this white girl. And then after that, they just let us go. They had the lineup. I don't know what she did. They told us that she had picked somebody out of the lineup, and we knew that was a lie because all of us were playing basketball. Nobody left the basketball court and went somewhere and assaulted this girl. But I guess they just had to put a lineup up there just to appease her or her parents or somebody, right? But anyway, they just let us go. And then there was one other time that my friend Jerome, who lived on Sheriff Road, we growing up together. So we decided to go downtown. We were going to shoplift these belts. You know what I mean? Leather belts and stuff, right? And the police got us on the escalator and it took us to this little room and said, you know what? You always shoplifting. We got you on camera and you going to National Training School. And that National Training School was where they sent the young guys in the Northeast at that time. That was the jail for us, right? And had us in there shaking and crying and everything until finally my father showed up and they released me to my father. Now he had to catch a bus because my father never drove anything. He had to catch a bus to come down to the precinct to get me out of there and take me on home. And of course, I don't even have to tell you what happened when we got home, right?
I came the belt.
Yeah, got the belt. Yeah, he didn't even talk. He just went in the room, got the belt, said, get ready. So I had to take all my clothes off and everything. But in none of these situations that was anything put on my record. It was mostly like scare tactics and stuff that they were using. But yeah, at 20 years old, you know that I had just come back from St. Louis because St. Louis is where I finished high school. And I was 19 when I finished high school. And I came back to DC because Uncle Sam's research fellowship ran out and he was finished and we came back to DC. And I enrolled at DC Teachers College, so.
All right, well, I'm gonna end the recording part of this.
Right.
The official part is done, but we can keep chatting if you guys still want to chat.